Can you please call the roll?
Here.
Here. Present.
Dr. Feller. Barton. Dr. Selvage.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. So, our closed session agenda is as follows. We have 2 items on the agenda. First one is Government Code 54956.9A, conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation, 1 item. Moore versus Pasadena Area Community College District et al., case number GC049693. The second item is Government Code 54957, Public Employee Appointments, Dean, Counseling and Student Success Services, Director, Financial Aid. Do we have anyone in the audience wishing to address the board on any of these items? If not, we will. Okay, we're back from closed session, and we do have 1 item to report. In closed session tonight, the board approved a settlement in the case of Moore versus Pasadena Area Community College et al. The settlement amount is $20,000, in exchange for which the plaintiff is releasing all claims. The district does not admit any liability. The vote was unanimous of those members present, which was all 6. Dr. Fellow was not here tonight, so all 6 board members agreed.
We're not paying $20,000.
The settlement is $20,000.
Right, but we're not paying the whole amount.
Right, we're paying 6 cents.
Yes, the district will be paying 1/3 of that, approximately $6,666.
That's what I wanted to make clear.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, we will ask Trustee Martin to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
You'll join with me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome each of you to our board meeting tonight. Thank you for your desire to be with us. Okay, so at this time, I would like to add a resolution to our agenda, if I just find it. Yes, a resolution number 545 for resolution recognizing Pastor John T. McCall and First Lady Juanita McCall for 10 years of leadership in the community. The reason we're adding it is because I received the request and I was out of town, so the agenda was already out. So do I have a motion?
So move.
Do we have a second? We have a motion by Trustee Waugh and a second by Trustee Thompson. So do we take vote now? So all in favor for this approval?
The approval is to add the resolution,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yes. Yes?
To the agenda.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the resolution has been added, including student trustee. Thank you. Okay, so now, do we have any introductions? No introductions? No introduction. Do we have any public comments?
I don't have anything.
No comment, okay. Okay, so we will go to the approval of minutes from our last meeting.
Move
I'll
to,
entertain a motion.
move to approve.
We have a motion by Trustee Waugh,
Second.
a second by our student trustee. What was her name? I forgot it.
Ellie Bond.
Kelly Bond, thank you. Sorry, Kelly. Kelly. I'm still on vacation, you guys. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no discussion? Okay, so then our minute stands as read. Okay, now we'll turn to the approval of consent items. I think we have one revision, which is which one?
It's 35B.
35B is revised. P as in Paul? Okay. Do we have any trustee wishing to address?
I do.
Okay, we have one. Trustee Thompson, which one?
I would like 73B to be dealt with separately.
73B?
Yes.
Okay, trustee.
I don't want the item pulled. 18I, I do want to make a comment on it. It doesn't have to be pulled, though.
18I. Okay, any other? Okay.
I had the same thing with Mr. Thompson.
Okay, great. So, except for these two, I will entertain a motion to approve all the other consent items except for 73B and 18I. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by trustee Waugh,
Second.
second by trustee Mann. All in favor?
Aye.
Student trustee and all, raise your hands. Okay, motion carry. Now let's talk about 73B.
There's an item there that Cal Poly Pomona Foundation, where we're apparently paying them $317,484 to expand opportunities and improve success of students who transfer from PCC to Cal Poly in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM, to increase student persistence. Is this an existing relationship that we have, or is this something we're creating?
I'm going to ask Dr. Miller to address that.
Thank you. We have a Title V STEM grant, and part of the grant is working with Cal Poly Pomona on the science, technology, engineering, and math items. And this is a payment of the monies that we have in our grant to Cal Poly to conduct the work that their part of the grant requires.
How long has the relationship existed?
I believe this is either the fourth year of this grant, I believe, out of a 5-year grant.
Okay.
It's through the National Science Foundation.
And how many of our students
U.S. Department of
transfer?
Education.
How many of our students transfer to Cal Poly?
I don't have that exact number, but I know that there's a large number of PCC students transfer to Cal Poly on a regular basis.
This is the type of information that we really need to get out to the public and make people more aware of, because this sounds like a very good relationship. And Cal Poly Pomona is an excellent school, especially if you want to go into the STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and or math. And so we ought to try to get that information out to make people more aware of it.
Okay.
Yes, that was not the item that I wanted in 73B. I would like to ask about B160160, which is on the second page, and it's the affiliation agreement for clinical training with the Veterans Administration. Could you comment on that?
Dr. Bell, I believe you have a prepared answer for that.
Yes, I have an answer, but what I'm going to do with the pleasure of the board is I'm going to ask Dean Barbara Foreign to come forward, since it deals specifically with health science and the LVEN students, and she can give you an expanded explanation.
Very good. Thank you.
Expanded but not extended. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, I thought you said an outstanding explanation.
I didn't want to belabor the obvious, Barbara.
This agreement, to my understanding, is the start for our LVN program, which we just reestablished. It had been on hiatus for about a year. We have a new program director in place. This is for the LVN students and the certified nursing assistant students to be able to have rotations in both acute care as well as some of the long-term care rehab that the Veterans Administration hospitals offer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that satisfactory to you?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? No? Okay, so let's just talk about 18I before we vote. I know. So this is not to be voted on, just to be discussed, she said.
Right.
Just to discuss. You want to vote it? Okay, let's vote then on 73B. Okay?
I move approval of 73B. Second.
Okay, so we have approval we have a motion to approve by trustee, is it Waugh? Mann, and a second by trustee Waugh. Student trustee?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried to approve 73B. Now we'll go to 18I.
So the question I asked on 18I was, which districts do these internships and these partnerships benefit? So I didn't exactly get an answer to my question, and I know that this is an ongoing, the LA High Tech is an ongoing project. So what the response I got back was more in-district non-partnering high school students are being served by PCC funding for our activities. So, and I think consistent to one of the things that we've discussed in the board is it would be good to get a report back on when we have accomplished these milestones. So one of the things I would like is when we get to the end of our agenda and we ask, are there any future items, that this be noted as one of those reports that we should get back, because I would like to know how the rest of our district students are benefiting. I think we've concentrated on just one or two areas in the past.
We will have that as a future report to you.
Okay. So I guess we're finished with our consent agenda.
It's vote on 89.
She said it wasn't a vote. Okay, so we need to approve this 18I.
I move approval. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by trustee Mann and a second by trustee Waugh. Advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All consent items are now approved. Okay, so now we will move to our action items. At what point do I bring this one in? Okay, so let's go to approval of additions and deletions.
Dr. Bell?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. The question is, I think one of the concerns is how do we go about forming the decisions on what courses are deleted and what courses are added. Typically, the course review and the curriculum and instruction committee, faculty will bring forward classes which are no longer taught, classes which haven't been taught for a period of time, or classes whose current curriculum is not consistent with what our labor market needs, if it's in CTE or current curriculum. So the decision is made among the curriculum and instruction committee to archive or delete those from the catalog for instruction for any given period of time. For new programs which are bought, faculty will bring forward recommendations for new curriculum to be reviewed by the Curriculum Instruction Committee. It goes through the process of review and vetting among that committee, and then is ultimately brought forward to the administration, and then the ultimate decision with the board for additional curriculum to be added. And so that's how the process of why curriculum is deleted through CNI and how new curriculum is added.
Okay, trustee Waugh.
Okay, so the comment that I posed on this item, so I don't have any problems with the additions and the deletions, and frankly, seeing some of the deletions on the courses I think were quite relevant. But I think relative to what the Workforce Development Task Force come up with, and having just written an article which will be going out to all of the trustees and the CEOs, so I wrote this with Dr. Cook. One of the things I hope that our board is asking when we look at curriculum changes is how do these additions move us towards a pathway for success for our students, and how does it fulfill the workforce need in our area? How does it contribute when our students complete these pathways and these degrees? How does that then enable them to participate successfully in the economic development of our area? So this is also an item for, I hope, a future report.
We will have that for you, Doctor.
Very good. Any other?
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I had asked some questions on this that Dr. Bell answered in part, but it seems like this is the right time for the board to get a brief presentation on some of these programs, because in the automotive tech program, there's some courses being deleted, there's courses being added. So it appears just looking at the moving pieces, that there's there's some program redesigns that are going on, and it seems like an opportune time to inform the board and the public. Observing these, it appears there's a little bit more emphasis on hybrid and electric car technology, for example, but I'm just kind of piecing little pieces together and not hearing anything official. Similarly, we're deleting courses in Excel and Access and some of these things. I have to believe we're not kicking the Microsoft Office out of our curriculum. It's probably reappearing someplace else. So there's a greater strategy going on here. So I'd ask you to just give us a snippet on the programs, on the business program and the health program and the automotive program, as to some of the direction, the greater direction that I as a trustee would be interested in knowing.
Great. Any other questions?
Would you want me to give? Would you want this answer now, or you want it at a later point in time?
I don't need a very long answer, and it seemed like as part of approving these additions and deletions, this would be the perfect on-agenda topic. But if it's not in your, if you would rather do it differently, I mean, I'm good just in a couple minutes, you know,
Right.
beep, 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 beep.
Dr. Bell, would you want me to address that, or
Well, you can, and I will follow up and give you information. If you like me, Dr. Burton, I can lead.
When it comes to the automotive program, we are going right now through the NATIVE certification, which is the National Automotive Technicians and Engineering Certification Program. And we have an advisory council that advises the program as to what needs to be done to the program, what needs to be added to meet the new certification standard. And consequently, as you mentioned, we are adding some of the hybrid engine technician certificate in that, and some of the older systems need to go away. That's the part for the automotive program. And when it comes to the business and technology area with the Excel and so on, they are being included in a different certificate. Not all of them are going away. Some are deleted under this specific program, but is added also in other program.
Okay.
Okay.
Trustee
Dr. Bell,
Selvage?
is there anything else that we can add to that?
You covered it well. That's exactly it.
So for example, human relations for business is, there's just not, is there another specific course that deals with human relations for, or in HR, or is that embodied in
That subject,
something?
yeah, that subject matter trustee Martin is embodied in a certificate, a different certificate of achievement, and so it's moved. The curriculum isn't going away. It just is embodied now in a certificate program, certificate of achievement.
And I'm just picking out another one, because again, I'm sitting here seeing we're deleting computer-aided engineering, which to me is like a CAD program, which seems to be like where all the engineering and drafting would be, but I'm assuming we're not taking computer-aided engineering out, it's just being re-embodied again.
Restructured into a different program. And again, for your purposes, since I don't have the detail that, for example, our dean will, what we will do is we will follow up, and I'll have Dean Safoni put together a more detailed explanation for you and have that available for you and all the trustees.
And maybe the board president and Dr. Bridian would consider just having it as a short presentation for everybody from another meeting, because I think it's important for the trustees and the community to know that we are trying to stay current, and this is how it's current, and that we're not deleting computer-aided drafting, we're not cutting out the Microsoft Office. You know, it's just being handled in a different way that we feel is more current.
Mm-hmm. We will definitely do that, Trustee Martin.
Okay, thank
Trustee
you.
Savage?
Yeah, when I was looking at the automotive courses, the question occurred to me, is what we are doing in any particular way impacted by Rio Honda setting up a 4-year program?
Rio
Honda, yes, has a 4-year program in that now.
Yes, but does the fact that they're setting up a 4-year program, has that had any particular impact on our planning here, what we offer?
It should not have any impact on our program and our planning. Yeah. That's because in this specific area, you do not need a bachelor's degree. A certificate as we offer it is significantly enough or more than enough for our students to earn a well-paying job.
I was extremely excited when I read those, to be honest, because it just went to me, work, people getting jobs. They're getting current, they'll be able to make good salaries. So I'm actually very excited about it. But I do agree with Trustee Martin. I think it's good for us to get a full picture. And not only would we get a good picture, but the public would be able to also get a good picture. Students could be listening and wanting to take advantage of this. So I am excited. I think this was good. Thank you. So now, yes, Trustee.
In reading the explanations, if you look at the one for Business 117, Human Relations for Business, I think it's got an excellent rationale. Archiving is recommended because the newer Business 160 Customer Service course includes the curriculum and also has not been updated for many years. So if these other courses are being included, that might be a good idea just to put like a little phrase. So, because many of these classes, the rationale is hadn't been taught in 2 years. So what does that mean? But I mean, and I think it'd be very helpful saying, and the subject matter is being included in whatever.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to get this granular, but when I see a human relations course for business, of course, the customer side is one thing, but your own employee side is also the other. Mm-hmm. And so when it's moving from a description that covers both into a description that covers one,
Right.
I start to just ask myself questions. So and I'm not trying to get I'm not trying to get granular, leave all that
Right.
to you. I just want to make sure that I get the big picture.
One quick comment that I can make is when a curriculum is not offered for 4 consecutive semesters, the State Chancellor's office is very clear on that. You have to delete it. And as Dr. Bell was saying earlier on, this curriculum has not been offered, and as is listed as an explanation, as a reason for not offering it, is because it hasn't been offered in 4 semesters. That's because most of that curriculum has been incorporated in other courses that we are offering.
Okay. Good. All right, thank you.
So I think the discussion is over now. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Trustee Wall.
Second.
We have a second by Trustee Salvage. Student trustee?
Aye.
All in favor? Raise hands. Okay, motion carry. Okay. Okay, so now I would like to insert Resolution 545, resolution recognizing Pastor John McCall and First Lady Juanita McCall. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you,
I'd like to
trustee.
hear the resolution. Oh,
You want me
okay.
to read the whole resolution?
But wait till you get it on the floor, yes.
So move to approve.
Okay, do we have a second? Do we have a second?
So,
Oh, thank you, Dr. Salvage. I didn't see your hand. Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee One, a second by Trustee Salvage. Does you want me to read it?
Well, I don't want to vote on something I've never seen.
Okay, so let's read it. Whereas Pastor McCall is the founder and chief executive officer of the Veal Family and Youth Service, INC, a community-based nonprofit agency providing comprehensive outpatient mental health service to children and families. And whereas through this organization, a vast array of culturally competent mental health services have been provided to the community, including on school campuses. And whereas Pastor McCall is currently a member of the Pasadena NAACP, the International Ministerial Alliance, the Community Clergy Coalition, and Tri-County District Association, Congress of Christian Education President, and the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. And whereas Pastor McCall has served as a board member of the Association of Community Human Services Agency, as a former member of Altadena Town Council, and as an administrative assistant to Pastor William Turner Jr. and the New Revelation Missionary Baptist Church. And whereas Pastor McCall has worked as a program manager for Oak Knoll Day Treatment Center and Intensive Day Treatment Program operated by Pacific Clinics, and whereas Pastor McCall has worked as co-residential treatment director for 5 acres and residential treatment facility for abuse children, and whereas Pastor McCall is a licensed clinical social worker and hold an Academy of Certified Social Workers credentials, and whereas Pastor McCall and First Lady Juanita McCall are being honored by the Bethel Missionary Baptist Church of Pasadena for 10 years of faith-filled services, now there be it resolved that Pasadena Area Community College District recognizes Pastor John and First Lady Juanita McCall for their leadership in the community and dedication to service of those in need, and be it further resolved that Pasadena Area Community College District joins with Bethel Missionary Baptist Church of Pasadena in celebrating the McCalls' 10 years of leadership that watches over souls. And so that's it. And what I would like to add is that when we were engaged visiting the churches, this was one of the churches that really impressed me, because whenever I went there, I could always find them engaged with youth in their church, working to further youth, and that was impressive to me. It was not just on Sunday. It was like if I dropped in to drop flyers off, there were always young kids in that church. So I was impressed with them. So that is the resolution. So do we have any questions? So we'll take a vote.
Aye.
Okay. Student trustee said aye. In favor? We have all in favor? Okay, perfect. Thank you. And resolutions pass. Thank you. Let's give this to, I'm sure they will appreciate it. Okay. so-
I'd like to make a comment,
Sure,
though.
please.
I voted for this resolution, but I was uncomfortable because I did not hear in the resolution anything which tied this work, which I know is, I'm familiar with and think is very fine, to the college. So in the future, I think if we're going to get a resolution of this type, it would make more sense if in some way, in fact, even our Sundays where we've gone and recruited students were included. I mean, I had that knowledge.
Okay.
But I think it would be, and I don't know who wrote the resolution. I know you said you had not been here. You could have asked the writer of the resolution to show the relationship to the college, because otherwise I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for us to vote for it. But because I knew of that, I did vote for it.
Thank you.
And now that Dr. Mann's saying that, I actually felt very much the same way. Sounds like an exceptional couple of individuals, and I have a lot of confidence in our board president, so I feel comfortable voting for it just on your recommendation. But the fact that it wasn't on agenda and we kind of voted to put it on agenda and we did all that, I'm just not quite used to that. So just going forward, I think we ought to maybe the best we can plan ahead and try to get Pasadena City College in the bodies someplace or something.
I should apologize because...
I trust you, Belinda, and
no,
they're great
I need to
people.
say that. I need to say this. This request did come to me while I was gone. And unfortunately, they are going to be having this celebration on November 1st. So our next meeting would have been too late.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons. And again, I did ask Ms. Turner, which is one of our members of the President's Advisory, African American Advisory Committee. She sits on the board. And like I said, my personal experience was that whenever I went to this church, they were always engaged trying to get the students. As a matter of fact, there was one young lady that when I passed out our April, I think it was April when we used to always go out to get our kids to register early, Pastor McCall took this young lady over to Jackie Robinson personally to ensure that she signed it up for class. So I they are connected with PCC, but I have to say, Dr. Mann, I guess we should have maybe put a few words in here, and for that, I take the blame. Thank you. Please sign it.
Oh, I have to sign it? Oh, I need a pen.
Okay, so now we'll go to,
I do, yeah.
oh, we have some very exciting informational items. I have been sitting and listening to accreditation, and I'm very, very excited of the work that's going on, seeing people working together and trying to pull this. So please, go ahead.
It gives me great pleasure to ask our accreditation liaison officer, Dr. Kathy Scott, to give us a presentation on where we are with addressing the recommendations of the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges. Dr. Scott, would you please introduce your team, and we thank you for that.
In the update, it must be the one in the brown is the updated version of the one that was in the packet, correct?
The updated version you have has the page numbering at the bottom so that we can refer to the pages.
Good evening, trustees. I'm very pleased to be here with my colleagues, Dr. Corner, Professor Fleming, and Professor Pillone, to present an accreditation update to you. Firstly, I'd like to start by talking about the campus response. We have had a significant collaboration and participation from the college's constituency groups. We started in the summer with an accreditation task force that was put together at Dr. Verdian's direction because we wanted to get started right away. From the work of the task force, we knew what work groups needed to be established, and when fall started, we were then able to immediately get representatives from the various constituency groups to serve on them. We have work groups in place, and each group has created an initial plan and is working towards completing a draft of their response to the specific recommendations. And quite a bit of work has been done at this point. Because of the overlapping content within the recommendations, the leads of each work group meet approximately twice a month to coordinate the work that is being done. And I would like to thank Trustee Brown for serving on 2 of the work groups. She's serving on the governance, which met today, and also the ethics committee, 2 of the most important work groups.
So thanks to the leadership of Dr. Scott and Professors Fleming and Pallone, we've organized our structure for addressing the accreditation recommendations around areas of focus rather than going standard by standard, because there's a great deal of overlap across them, as was described. And this is to make sure that we really have that full integration, and these boxes represent the areas that we're really working on. It's a good way of communicating how we're addressing accreditation without using that prototypical accreditation language that people seem to get lost in. The first recommendation we received was related to integrated planning, and I'm happy to say that we are well on our way to having that completely addressed. We have approved an integrated planning model and a strategic plan to support that, and I want to thank the Academic Senate, the Classified Senate, and the Management Association for making sure that we see this all the way through and having it approved within a month's time of the school starting. This was no easy task, and definitely the leadership of each of those groups played a significant role in making sure we moved forward as a college, and we now have an integrated planning process that is college supported and approved by all of our constituency groups. In fact, it's already gone into effect. Starting on October 1st, we sent out annual updates, which are program annual updates that each program will fill out, where they evaluate how well they're doing, they plan for the future, and they put in their requests for resources. This will be the vehicle we use for tying together program review, planning, and our budgeting process, and they are all due by the end of the month. The staff from the Office of Strategic Planning and Innovation will have had over 70 meetings by the end of next week with individual programs to assist them in putting these forward. And I'd like to thank everybody who's met with us, because nobody is angry. Nobody is saying, I can't believe I have to do this, but people seem to genuinely be, I think excited might be a little too strong, but definitely accepting of taking on a new role of requesting what they need. This will be followed up by an evaluation of the entire process through the budgeting cycle, which will end in March or April.
I have a question, if I might. This was approved. When did this come before the board?
This is the integrated planning process. It doesn't revolve around any board policy. It's just the process through which we do our planning, so it did not go to the board.
Would you go back to that previous
Yes, ma'am.
slide? And the strategic plan, that doesn't come before the board either?
The strategic plan is just the prioritization of the educational master planning items that the board has already approved, and it was based on the board goals for the college that were developed last year as the 3-year goals that we were supposed to focus on. So instead of developing something new, we took the lead from the board and went along with those. The wording is very similar with some adjustments to make sure that the faculty and staff working on these knew what was being asked of them.
Great. Well, I am concerned about this. I don't understand why the board it did not come to the board. I am concerned how the Accreditation Commission will look at this. Since you'd think if there was anything the board would approve, it would be this. I don't want us to shoot ourselves in the foot. And I will say it maybe for the last time, I've served on 8 accreditation teams and I've looked at governance 8 times, and to me this would be a red flag.
Okay.
In the human resources area, evaluations across the campus are being completed. Thanks to the work of HR, we now have a master list of all employees and when their evaluations are due. We have also created a consistent evaluation process for adjunct faculty, which was also required. In terms of faculty responsibility for student learning outcomes, and this would be for both full-time and part-time faculty, language has been clarified about those responsibilities, put into an MOU, and approved. In terms of classified responsibility, where appropriate for student learning outcomes, it has been written with representatives from the classified bargaining groups and confidentials, and an MOU is expected in the near future. Administrative responsibility for SLOs has been written into their evaluation document, been approved by the College Council. In regards to organizational structure, let me start here with the final bullet listed. The recommendation called for us to fill interim manager positions. And before we filled those positions, we wanted to review again our organizational structure. And our review included looking and analyzing things like input from the campus, the costs involved, and the pros and cons of the current structure, which was never fully realized, partly because of the costs involved in doing so. A proposed model has been developed and shared with the deans, the academic senate, the classified senate, and the managers association. Input from all these groups is being gathered, and a final decision on the structure will be made after all input has been very carefully considered.
Hi, good evening. One of the other major areas of focus in the recommendations is concerning governance, as you all know. And from the external evaluation report, you may have noted that there was a statement that all of the constituency groups of the campus needed to work together for the good of the institution. And so that has been the major focus of the working group that is focused on the governance recommendations. We have a governance working group meeting, which started meeting in last spring, and is continuing to meeting throughout the summer, and again, in fact, we just had another meeting today, as Dr. Scott was mentioning. And one of the major areas of focus that we've been looking at in this governance group meeting is reviewing all of our policies and procedures. And there are several reasons why we want to do that. The first thing that we need to make sure is that what's written in those policies and procedures actually reflects the practice. And we also want to make sure that whatever is written is actually what we want to be there and that it's truly effective. And by having all of the constituency groups review all of these policies and procedures surrounding governance, it increases the awareness of what our policies and procedures are, what we should be doing, and that ultimately will increase transparency around the issues of governance, which is one of the areas of focus that the site team noted in the external evaluation report. As we go through this review, we're trying to focus specifically on the hiring practices and evaluations. As Dr. Scott mentioned earlier, we have a recommendation concerning that. We're also trying to increase widespread participation in the process. We want to have a diversity of voices, and specifically we're focusing on ways to support our classified members of the college so that they can fully participate in the shared governance process. A couple of the other things that we've been looking at is how do we increase the effectiveness of the website so that we can increase that transparency, better communicate what folks are doing. And I know we're going through a widespread review of our website, but we're having this conversation now so that we can inform that process as we move forward. And we want to increase effectiveness of our committee structure. And specifically, we're also focusing on the role of college council and how can we truly have a committee structure that is effective. And so that is primarily what the governance group has been focusing on as our action items as we move forward. One of the other areas that we're trying to focus on is communication. If you look through a lot of the recommendations in the external evaluation report, as well as the supporting narrative, you'll notice that item of that we need to increase effective communication across the campus. And so we have multiple working groups that are addressing this and have therefore made several recommendations to us. One of the major recommendations is we want to make sure that all of the leaders across the campus are modeling this collegial communication. We think it's extremely important. It's been one of the major recommendations coming out of several of the working groups. We want to show that the work is valued, and so we need to illustrate a true respect for the input of the governance groups, and we think that communicating the processes and the way that we make decisions at our campus will help with that. And then we also need to find more ways in order to get information out, and one of the recommendations has been to have a president's newsletter, which I know that Dr. Verdian will speak more about. And we're trying to find ways to improve communication among and in between the actual committees. Some of the things we talked about just today was creating a standard way for committees to share out, asking committees to set goals every year and to evaluate themselves on those goals, and then to also share those goals and the result of the evaluation with our governance committees, such as College Council. So those are several of the steps that we've been taking. Moving forward, also, one of the things that I know I've talked with you about in the past is having a campus-wide like a consultant that will come in and help guide us through some of the issues concerning communication, collegiality, civility, and those particular issues. And planning and priorities, again, has taken up that issue. I know that they've reviewed the RFP or the RFI, whichever letter you prefer. They've reviewed that a couple of times, and they're ready to move forward with that process, and we will update you with that as soon as we have more information.
We are also looking at the college ethics activities. It was recommended that our policies are okay. We have policies in place that are adequate, but that we're not following them. And so our group is working on trying to decide how to help people understand what ethics are, what the ethics of the college are, and how they apply to various different settings. And so we've come up with a list of kind of very shortened list of ethical behaviors that we would like to see people following, which eventually will be posted in meeting rooms where people are gathering to do school business. And we're also looking at kind of a phrase of some sort, almost like a little motto that relates to ethics, so that it's something we can all just kind of keep in our heads all the time. And we've made a lot of progress on this. We do have a list of suggestions, which is going out to the committee for review, and will eventually, once input has been received, go out to various shared governance groups and work its way through the college. We also don't have a system for reprimanding people if they violate the ethics policy. And so they suggested that we come up with some way to do that. That's a tough one, but we're working on it. And in terms of professional development, we do now have a policy and procedure, 7160, which was approved by the board late spring. And so that group is now starting to gather information in the form of an assessment of what the needs on the campus are for professional development. They're developing a web page so that people can find out what's being offered and sign up. And our goal is to provide everybody on campus with information that will help them do their job better and understand better the way things happen at the college. And so that is also moving forward. In the future, if it's possible to hire the director for that policy that I guess the college was unable to hire this year, I think it would make the work of that group easier, because it's a very large task. It applies to faculty, to classified, to management people, and so it's really meeting the needs of everybody on the campus. And so to have someone really fully in charge of coordinating that, I think would be a good thing. Thank you.
So I'll go quickly through these. We also received a recommendation to improve effectiveness, which was not in regards to meeting the standards, but just to improve, related to making sure we finish program review and student learning outcomes with student affairs programs. That's well under its way. They're working on their student learning outcomes or their student service outcomes. They turned in program reviews last year, which are currently being evaluated, but they've restructured the way they want to do them to increase effectiveness, and they will be using that new structure as they complete their annual program reviews during this integrated planning cycle. They're also being trained by planning personnel through the Office of Strategic Planning to make sure that everything is in line and fits with our new model. In terms of evaluation, we've been very gifted to have a lot of our different work groups working on different elements of evaluation, ensuring that as we move through our integrated planning process, our standard planning processes, and our governance and decision-making processes, we have a system to make sure that it works well. Thankfully, Crystal Colross has developed a nice standard for evaluating some of our committee structures, which was discussed today, and we'll be going to College Council next week. And we will continue to work on this one as we update our processes.
And finally, we have a very clear timeline because we know we have to get this work done prior to the report going into ACCJC next October. The accreditation work groups will be submitting drafts to me by November 13th, after which the two faculty leaders here and I will be working, reading them, noting what needed to be changed, sending them back if necessary. The accreditation work groups will then reconvene again in January when everyone returns, and we're looking to have a final draft of the follow-up report done by mid-February. And we need to have it done relatively quickly because it has to get through all the constituency groups, including the board, prior to it going to ACCJC. So we're looking for it to go to P&P, which is also our accreditation steering committee, by February 22nd. It would go to first and second readings to the constituency groups in March and April, and after which it will be provided to the board for their review and approval prior to or on August 3rd. The report again will go to ACCJC before October 1st, and that is our timeline. And just to conclude, I would like to thank my colleagues. I think we are working collaboratively together, and I should also thank Dr. Mann because she served on two of the governance groups last semester, and her input was extremely helpful. And that concludes the report.
Anyone have any? Go ahead, Trustee Wall.
So I just want to congratulate you all on, it's obvious there's a lot of hard work that went into this and a lot of collegial building for consensus. I want to say how particularly pleased I was with the reports from Professor Pallone and Professors Fleming, because they addressed the soft skills, the ethics issues, and those are things that I think that we, the board, also are dealing, we're wrestling with. How do you handle these things? So I think that those are particularly difficult issues to address with your colleagues. So thank you all for your work on this.
Thank you.
I just wanted to echo that, too. I think it's really comforting and reassuring to see the different parts of the community, the college community, working together so collaboratively and positively, and I want to just thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you, and thank you from all of us.
Yeah.
Trustee Ross?
Yes, one observation on the timeline. It says Board of Trustees review and approve follow-up report August 3rd. This is on the last page here, page 13. We shouldn't assume that it's just going to be one presentation to the board. So whatever the timeline is, we need to make allowance for the possibility of it needing to come to the board twice or
The report will come to the board on several occasions, starting with August 3rd, because once you get it for review, you will be giving us feedback, and the feedback will be taken to the committee. Then the committee will incorporate the feedback, and you will get it again. That's why we have it August 3rd, which gives us the full month of August and the full month of September for us to accept your suggestions and feedback, incorporate it, and bring it back to you.
Yeah, I wasn't clear if that was good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I should also mention that the report should clear all the governance groups on campus prior to the end of the semester. So it is our belief
End
that
of
it
the
will
spring
be-
semester?
Correct.
Yeah.
So that will give the board plenty of time.
Yes, I was just going to suggest that I think there should be interim reports before that, because just as we went through accreditation process, we asked for reports on the way through, which shows the board is involved. I don't think we should wait till the very end and be given the whole thing. And I'm sure Stephanie remembers all those reports. But I think it looks good, establishes a pattern. I did just check on my phone. We do have a policy on having integrated strategic plan, and actually, I guess the reason I'd forgotten that was we approved it in 1999. So it's taken us a little while to get it implemented. And I guess my concern here is we're giving an awful lot of work has been done, a new strategic plan, all this kind of stuff. And I think it would be better if we could get more updates as we go, rather than get it all at once. That's all.
Okay, we understand. We'll certainly do that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Now we go to item H, board practice designation, emeritus status. Discussion, right?
Yes, we bring this for information to the board, because it has been brought to our attention that we do not have at Pasadena Area Community College District, we do not have a process or a practice to designate or to award the title of emeritus status. And we have looked at, I have asked Crystal Colros, our researcher, to look at how other colleges do it across the state. We also got in touch with the CCLC to find out whether there is any specific way to address that. And we were told that it would be appropriate for us to establish some form of a practice and to have the board be all right with that practice that we have. And so we felt that it would be important for us to bring this practice for you to take a look at before we can start implementing it if the need arises, or whenever there's an appropriate occasion for us to do so.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee Waugh.
Yes, I had submitted a few concerns when I saw this. I do know that the universities have an emeritus status, and I have friends of mine have emeritus status. And it does seem like a nice honor, but it just happened that I was at the ACCT this past week, and I attended the best practices for boards policies, and this particular issue came up, and two colleges had models of what they had done, and there were it had created a number of issues for boards. It begs the question of, what is the criteria? Is your criteria definite enough? Is there a specific purpose? And in the end, is it just for a specific person? Because as I was reading this criteria, I could think of lots of people who might qualify, and then it falls on the board to decide, okay, does this person get it? Does that person get it? And I think this could have some very negative unintended consequences for the board. At the end of the discussion at ACCT, in the workshop I was in, most trustees felt that this was not a good practice to adopt.
Okay, Trustee Mann.
Well, I would like to speak in favor of this. Actually, we do have a procedure for emeritus status for the faculty. So this would only apply, I think, to people who would not be covered by that. It would only be administrators, and maybe that could be clarified. And also it would be, administrators who were retiring. The faculty have an emeritus practice. It would not apply to. It would not in any way affect affect that. Actually, we have awarded emeritus status in the past. We gave emeritus status to Dr. Jack Scott, who was our former president, and we just did it at a meeting. And what reminded me of that was when we put the medallion on our new president, I realized that we had a similar medallion that we had awarded to Dr. Scott when we awarded him emeritus, the status of emeritus president. So in my thinking, this would not be handed out like candy. It would only apply to administrators, managers, people who had obviously been employees because they'd have to have retired or be retired, and that it would be only go to people who have had outstanding service and served in a leadership role. So I wasn't at the sessions. I don't know what the problems were in these other colleges. I know that four-year colleges often honor people at commencement, but they don't make them emeritus. You can only be emeritus if you had sometime had a status on the campus. So that really limits the people that this would apply to. So I support it. I think it's something we do. I think we have a couple of former presidents that we should recognize for their service.
Any other questions? Anyone else? Go ahead,
So
Trustee
if we've had a past practice, then why is this coming before the board now? I mean, if we already have that practice in place.
The practice is only for faculty currently.
But I just heard that we awarded this to
We did it without
Jack
without a practice. We just did it, and it was better, I think, to have a practice than just to decide to do it.
Yeah, I find it very questionable.
Okay, Trustee Savage.
Right, if we adopt this, and this would be for non-faculty, is there going to be additional work on how the nomination process or selection process would be handled? This talks about the qualifications, and we all recognize this would be for exceptional and extraordinary and all that work, but it doesn't say anything about how people would be nominated or proposed for this.
Vote of the board.
No, how would it be? Okay.
I know. I know. There's a lot that's not here.
Well, any other thoughts?
What's going to be the impact of if this gets passed? Is it going to be a done deal then, or is there still opportunity to refine it, to expand it, et cetera?
We can always refine it. We can always look at additional criteria about who will bring it forward, and will it come from the college or will it be brought forward by a board member? We can look at that and add to the criteria as we go forward. And
would it be appropriate for that to be covered in a procedure rather than in the policy that we have this?
We can address that and create, if you want, some procedures that would lead to make this practice acceptable.
To implement the policy.
Right. And this is not an action item. This is for information.
It says information.
It is for information.
Well, I personally would like to get a little more information because this is pretty vague to me. I would like to maybe see what other colleges are doing and get a little more information, because I like the idea of recognizing folks, but again, how do we choose who they are? And so that would be my thing.
Well, we can take a look at that, because what we have right now is what is standard in 2 community colleges in California.
2?
And yes. And the others have just a board policy. And what we can do, we can look at all that and bring it to you on the 4th of November at our next board meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
The others do have a board policy, you say, just a board policy?
The 2 that we saw had a practice.
Right.
Right.
I'll make a comment,
Go ahead.
May. So, in general, I'm a pretty simple person, and sometimes at the risk of making everything perfect so we never miss the right person or accidentally give it to the wrong person, we can be on a rabbit trail that never ends. And I think, I for one can think of one person who immediately, I don't care what, I remember when we talked about Dr. Scott, and we went through a similar discussion, and the conclusion we came to before we awarded him the emeritus is, I don't know what the bar is. I don't care where you put the bar. He's over it, right? So, I can think of somebody right now, in my opinion, I'm not the only one that counts. I don't care where we put the bar. I can think of at least one person who I think's over it. So I'm a little more for doing something simple sooner than something perfect someplace in the distant future at the risk of, so that we don't miss some people who've been meaningful to this district. I'm very appreciative. I'm sitting here looking at the professional for faculty, and they have a way of doing that, so I feel very good that that's covered. At the superintendent level, if you can hang in there for 10 years, you got to be pretty close to the bar. Come on, just look around the state, right? I'm just telling you, Dr. V, if you make 10 years, you got a really good chance. I don't care what.
9 years, 3 months to go.
Yeah, so, I'm for one, I'm very comfortable with this, and we'll be comfortable with future boards making that discretion, and if we want to polish it up and acknowledge that the faculty's already covered through their own system, and we're looking for everybody else, I'm good with that. But
Dr. Mann?
Yes, I support it, but I have an additional comment I would like to make. I think the awarding emeritus status of this would obviously be an outstanding person. I mentioned Dr. Scott, Trustee Martin just mentioned Dr. Scott. But, there have been some really outstanding presidents who we haven't recognized. For example, Dr. Armin Serafin, for whom we named a building, is generally recognized as being a very outstanding president. And I wasn't on the board when he was the president, but I know that if you saw the presentation that the foundation did, the glory days and so on, that was during his presidency. I think it would have been great if the board would have awarded him emeritus status. He is a distinguished man, and that distinction would go with him. So I don't think Dr. Scott wears his medallion when he goes, places, but he does wear it when he comes here. I've seen him wear it a couple of times, and so I think part of the reason of awarding emeritus is to recognize people who have served and to, in a sense, make their relationship with the college even stronger.
Okay, so I guess you will bring this back? Thank you. Okay, so let's turn, I think the next is report of the superintendent.
Well, President Brown, members of the board, it gives me great pleasure tonight to recognize two individuals who are in the audience today. When you approved the consent calendar, you approved the appointment of two outstanding individuals who will be joining Pasadena City College. One is already here, Mr. Armando Duran, our new dean of counseling and student services. And Mr. Duran has been with the college and has been most recently currently serving as interim associate dean of counseling. But now we will drop the interim, we'll drop the associate, but we will add to your title, Dean of Counseling and Student Services. And also in the audience we have our new Director for Financial Aid, Mr. Manuel Cerda. Mr. Cerda is currently at Mount San Antonio College, and he will be starting here in the next 2 weeks, and we welcome you to Pasadena City College. I do believe that you have your spouse with you in the audience. All right?
Oh, sweet.
And Mr. Duran, I do believe you have your spouse also, right?
Okay. The ladies are out tonight.
Well, to continue my report, I want to share with you that our advisory councils have been working very hard. The President's Latino Advisory Council, the President's African American Advisory Councils, and the President's Asian American and Pacific Islander Council, all councils have been working very hard to come up with ways on how we can improve the performance of our students and also how to improve the pathways that exist not only at the college, but the pathways that we want to establish and that we have been establishing with the surrounding school districts. Consequent to the work of the councils and the work of our own faculty and staff, we will be adding 2 additional pathways at Pasadena City College. One is the STEM pathway that Dr. Brock Klein is working on, and we are looking forward to implementing this coming spring, and also an African American pathways, because our ultimate goal is to make sure that we can erase that achievement gap that you saw at our last board meeting when Ms. Crystal Colros was presenting the information on student success. I am also very happy, pleased to announce that the United States Department of Education has awarded the college a new 5-year grant totaling more than $2.6 million for our second-year pathways. You know, we have been serving more than 2,500 students. This past semester, we had close to 2,600 students on campus, and I see Stephanie Fleming there smiling because she's part of that program. And now we have a grant for the second-year student. And I would like to thank Brock Klein and Dr. Olivo, Ms. Fleming, and everybody else who have worked very hard to make this grant possible.
Thank you.
You recently heard of AB 288, the dual enrollment bill, if you want, sponsored by our very own Assemblyperson Chris Holden. And this bill was signed by the governor, and it is going to do wonders for our students. Mm-hmm. Dr. Olivo is working very closely with the student services outreach people, also with Dr. Scott in our instructional area, to reach out to all the school districts to see how we can make this a great success, especially since that bill was sponsored by a legislator from our very own district. Mm-hmm. And we would like to invite all of you to come to the college on November 4th at 10 a.m. when Assemblyman Chris Holden will be on campus for an official ceremony here to start the new bill. We are looking forward to having on campus the superintendents of the neighboring school districts, and our goal under the leadership of Dr. Olivo is to have the superintendents of the school district sign a memorandum of understanding with us to launch that pathways, to make sure that they know that we are working with them and that we are their partners. Right. Also at the college today, and that person will be here for a few days, is we are welcoming a faculty exchange person from the Netherlands in the dental hygienist program. And our understanding is that this is the first time that Pasadena City College has welcomed an exchange faculty member from the Netherlands or from anywhere in the world. And as a result of that, our very own Laurie Gallardi will be going to the Netherlands in the spring semester as a faculty exchange for a few weeks. And yesterday we met with Ms. Melanie Helsenkip from the Netherlands, and she was telling us how impressed she was by our dental hygienist program, and that we were by far superior to what they are offering in the Netherlands. I'm not making that up. She said that, to the people who were present at the luncheon. That's what she said. Pasadena City College was well represented at the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities in Miami last week. And I attended the board of directors meeting, and I also attended the Special California Caucus of presidents of the CSUs and UCs. And we are looking forward to submit early next year a request to the California legislature to increase funding for Hispanic serving institutions so that additional monies can be given to programs that will be supporting the if you want, the reduction of that gap that exists and to ensure that our Latino students succeed at the same rate as other students on campus. And last week I had the pleasure of attending ACCT with Trustee Wah, and I can tell you that Trustee Wah is probably one of the best campaign manager that you can have. I saw her work very diligently to ensure that a representative from our region got elected to the board of directors of the diversity board of directors, as I mentioned. The main focus of the ACCT conference validated the work that we are doing here at Pasadena City College. There was a heavy emphasis on Pathways program, and I was impressed to see that when we compare what Pasadena City College is doing to what other colleges are doing, I think we are doing a wonderful, superior kind of job. And as the results that we are producing demonstrate that we are doing that kind of work. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Verdian. Okay, now we'll turn to announcements by Share Governance. We'll start with Ms. Not Valerie.
No, I'm not Valerie. No, on behalf of Dr. Foster. We were amazed to find ourselves approaching the midterm of the semester already. So on behalf of Dr. Foster, I would like to offer a midterm report of what has been happening in the academic senate among the faculty so far this academic year. As you know, the academic senate leadership is dedicated to addressing the accreditation recommendations. And I just wanted to let the board know that 3 faculty members, Krista Gogan, Patricia Lynn, and myself, all served on site teams this fall semester alone. Then the faculty and the academic senate have participated in the development and the adoption of the new integrated planning and budget model, as you know, as well as the 3-year strategic plan. We've been working closely with academic affairs and our SLO coordinator to develop a plan to increase participation in a meaningful assessment process. As you know, that's also another area of focus for accreditation. We've worked with the classified and management leaders to host a Flex Day, and we think it's the largest Flex Day ever. We had nearly 800 participants at our last Flex Day, and I'd like to thank the Flex Advisory Committee as well as everyone who participated in that event. And I'd like to also specifically thank Dr. Olivo for making that day possible. The Senate has passed the BSI, the Basic Skills Initiative report recently, and I'd like to thank Professor Linda Hinsman and Dr. Scott for their leadership on that initiative. The Academic Senate leadership has worked with the campus leaders to develop a master calendar so that all of these reports and all of these initiatives are going through the Academic Senate in a timely and effective manner so that we can fully address them. Those are just the things that have happened in the first, 7 weeks of the semester, and as we move forward, we're looking forward to addressing an effective organizational structure for the college. We'll be addressing that on Monday in the Senate meeting. We're reviewing the SSSP and the equity reports. We're going to continue our collaboration with Dr. Olivo and the equity funds to host college-wide events that we think will benefit not only faculty but the rest of the campus. And ultimately, in the spring, we're looking forward to a successful review and ratification of the accreditation follow-up report. And I just want to thank everyone from the campus community who has gone out of their way to collaborate with us so far this semester for making this list of things possible for us. So thank you so much, and thank you to the board for your support.
Thank you. You know what's interesting? What are you going to do next year after we submit all this paperwork? You're going to feel like you're missing something, huh?
Sabbatical. Sabbatical. No, I'm kidding.
Going to Disneyland.
It's going to be like unreal. But thank you. Great report.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll turn to Mr. Joseph Futner,
Thank you.
Management Association.
And thank you, and good evening, board members. It's very hard to follow Stephanie Fleming. And on behalf of the Management Association, I would like to once again congratulate you for the work you and your team did for the Flex Day. It was a wonderful event. It was a very engaging event, and I think that without any doubt whatsoever, this was the most successful PD day that we've had, Flex Day that we've had. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just one second. On Wednesday, October 14th, the Management Association held a general meeting here in Crevling. Guests included Dr. Verdian and Dr. Scott. Apart from some general housekeeping items, the meeting's agenda included a discussion of the Management Association's professional development funding processes and the relationship of the internal professional development practices and funding to the larger emerging college-wide professional development landscape. And this is something we heard discussed just earlier in the report that you participated in, Stephanie. Also discussed was planning for this year's Management Association retreat to be held at the Altadena Country Club on the 6th of January 2016, which happens to be my 61st birthday, right? And just on a personal note, if I can just make the observation that I recently returned from Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I had taken my then 17, soon-to-be 18-year-old daughter, Nora, to look at every college in North America, ultimately. And so we're still undecided on that one, but I'll keep you posted. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now we'll turn to Classified Senate, Ms. Felicia Mitchell.
Good afternoon. I just want to remind everyone about the Classified Senate's fall Halloween fundraising event that we're going to be having on October 29th, and you all are welcome. And also, I would like to thank Kathy Scott for coming to our classified meeting today and giving us information and a presentation on the upcoming reorganization, and also thank her for an update on the progress of the accreditation issues. And also, last but not least, we will be having several members of our Senate attending the CCLC convention in November, and I will be one of them.
Great, thank you. Okay, Mr. Morales, Associated Students.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I am glad to say that I have appointed the last board member to the Associate Student Board, Mr. Stephen Stark, which is our Chief Justice, and can say how happy I am that actually I have accomplished one of my goals, which is to have our full board by our first professional conference, which is the California Community College Student Affairs Association, which will be going this weekend. And also accreditation, I'm very glad that was a great presentation. And Dr. Scott, I have to say that I'll be working together with you more often so we could get more student representatives in those committees, because I know this is very important for not only the committee chairs, but also for our campus. Also, I have created a new ITAP committee that will be working with some of our board members and also Dean Cobb. I want to thank Trustee Wall, which has helped us a lot on this situation, which is very important because I don't know if you guys know, but part-time students are not able to get this TAP card, which actually, as you guys also know, we have the majority of our students are part-time students. So hopefully we can get something done, and by next year have a new contract that will allow all our students to be able to use a TAP card. Last but not least, our events are coming up. We have homecoming coming very soon, which is next week. I'm very excited for that. A lot of students are excited for that. Applications are out for the courts for homecoming king and queen. This year is going to be way different, where any student can be queen or king. So it's going to be a little bit different of different years, which allows the student to be the king or queen that they will want to be. Also, Spirit Week will be next week, so I'm very excited, and I welcome all of you guys to come and see our great events and activities that we're doing. So we're planning a great movie night. It's something different that we're doing also this year. It might be on top of one of the lots, so we're trying to work that out, which is going very well. So hopefully we get lots of students and also staff and Board of Trustees if you guys want to come and see this cultural movie. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Will you be having a Halloween party?
We are going to have a trick-or-treat for kids, and we're going to have the homecoming dance, which is also, you guys are all invited to.
Okay.
Yeah,
just want to make sure we get that invitation.
Yes, of course. I'll definitely invite you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what about our student trustee?
Yes, just a few announcements. So Move LA has applied for a challenge grant for $100,000, which is for a universal transit pass for students. So it'd be really helpful if you guys went and vote at movela.org. There's only 12 days left to vote, and this money would really help the cause. I will be a part of the ITAP subcommittee that President Morales just discussed, and I will also be attending the seesaw trip with Associated Students this upcoming weekend. Thank you.
Great. Okay, Trustee Savage.
Someday last week, and I can't remember which day it was, I went to the Student Success Center opening over here. Ujima put that on. Trustee Mann was there as well, and that was a great event. The Ujima spaces have been expanded, and they're looking great. And also there was a unveiling of a panel of paintings that was done by a former alumnus here. She's a pretty accomplished artist, so you'll see that outside the hall. If it's not remounted now, it will be soon with some plexiglass over it.
Okay. That's your report?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Thompson?
No report this evening.
Okay. Trustee Walls?
Well, I just wanted to add on the Universal Transit Pass. So I want to really thank AS for stepping forward, Trustee Bond and President Morales, and then Dean Cobb. So for the trustees who don't know this, the Universal Pass will give multimodal access to public transit for our students. And this is, and I just announced this at LACSTA at our recent meeting 2 days ago, that this is also going to affect our K-12s, and I hope that you all will inform your districts of the importance of this, especially as we move forward with dual enrollment for our districts. We will have high school students who will need access to the college and to our sites. So thank you for your leadership. And I also wanted to report at the ACCT that this was also Dr. Verdian's first ACCT meeting as our PCC president, and I got lots of accolades for just how impressed people were with Dr. Verdian, so thank you. And for the first time in many years, we now have 3 directors at large for California on the ACCT board, and we now have the only API trustee on the diversity board. So, yeah, great show from California, and ACCT says that they are welcoming us to come in and participate. So I hope that all of us will get involved. So thank you.
Okay, Trustee Mann?
Well, I'm going to make an unofficial announcement because I got this phone call from a very excited person, but this is not official. But apparently, PCC was one of the 10 community colleges that got a grant for foster care programs. Is that true? And it would be $2.3 million for what, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Anyway, wow. 4 years. And I'm really very, very pleased by this. And if someone shouldn't have told me, that's okay, but I just thought I would announce it.
Thank you. Trustee Martin?
I'd like to thank the college for the wonderful Dr. Veridian reception that was held for local officials. I think it was last week. And because it wasn't a public announcement, the mayor of El Monte, Andre Quintero, came to that meeting and offered PCC students $100,000 in scholarships from the city of El Monte, which is something they have been doing for the other community college that also represents El Monte. So I was very appreciative to hear that, excited to hear that, and knowing that he's up for re-election and that's coming up, I think we need to move expeditiously just in case. So anyway, I thought that was and he's a former community college trustee, so he's someone that obviously gets it. So,
Trustee Martin, he said to make the ask after the election.
Okay, well, we're not getting into politics here, but there's been people on campus that I know of that have been working El Monte to get that, knowing that Rio Hondo was getting something, and so we'll just see how this plays out. But
well, that is very good. Okay, so now we will turn to proposed future board business meetings. So our next meeting will be November 4th. Followed by November 18th, And our organizational meeting will be December 9th. Okay, so we discussed a few items that we're going to put on future agenda board items. What were they? Do you remember?
So a follow-up report on the, well, I hadn't added the SBDC, but I was just going to add that. So I would like to see an actual business plan from SBDC and a timeline on when that's coming out. I think that we've gotten some great marketing presentations, but I think an actual business plan with some little more substance to it would be helpful to us as we approve these ongoing expenses. The other one was the, let's see, it's a follow-up on the pathways and which students would actually be, where are those students coming from in those districts, where would they be benefiting? And then on the curriculum, C&I approvals, where that workforce development pathway successes are coming from. And Dr. Verdian, you can schedule those whenever you think that they'll come out. They don't have to be.
Okay, so any other?
Well, I think we were also, related to that, going to get a brief presentation on the direction of the automotive program for one, the business program. I don't know, there was a couple little adjustments in there to Allied Health. I'm not sure if that quite.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.